Thank you so much, Chrysolette, and I hope you all can hear me well. Can I get a
Yes.
thumbs up? Yes? All right, great. So when Chrysolette connected with me and said, we have a forum where we can do something like this, I said, okay, let me share what is passionate for me. And there were two subjects that I was talking about, and one is certainly the Eagle leadership, and the second one is about gifting and talent. And I'm a certified Gallup's coach. So I said, okay, we can do between the two. So I thought we'll start with Eagle leadership because there's so much that one can learn from. And so this session that I want to do is going to be a session of introspection, and which means you will have to ask yourself some questions as we go along. And it'll be good to have a notebook and a pen so that you can start scribbling, taking down notes. Of course, this recording is going to be shared with you at some point of time, but it'll be good to go with me and take down some notes, and because some questions are going to be asked and you have to answer them. So it's not going to be me speaking only, it's going to be introspection and looking at yourself for some answers. And Chrysolette, thanks for there is obviously something that I need to do is to go back to my website to see whether it's updated and kept current. And also those verses are hitting me hard. I'm asking myself, am I living up to those expectations that God has for me? And so thank you so much for reinforcing that back to me. I need to go back to those scriptures and ask myself that question, am I actually living the mandate of being an FOM? All right, so Eagle leadership. This is something that I got from my boss, and most of you know him, ex-boss rather, Anand Pillai. When he actually did this session for the first time, I fell in love with it straight away. Then I picked it up, and then I started doing my own research, and I kept listening to a few authorities on this Eagle leadership. And it initially was only 6, and then I got 3 more added to the whole thing, and there are totally 9 qualities that I want to look at. I do this actually for leaders and managers within Reliance, but I'm going to do this as a twist around Christian leadership and looking at it from a biblical point of view as well. Most of you will never forget me for life because my name is so simple. You don't have to remember what this guy's last name is. It's as good as his first name. So that's who I am. And thank you for that good introduction, Chrysolette. So let's move on. Just hoping that slide will work. Yes, is it going on to the next slide? All right, so I want to ask this question. The national bird of India and the United States of America are 2 different birds, right? What is the national bird of the United States of America? We'll come to that, but what's the national bird of India? The national bird of India is the peacock, that's right. And it's there for a particular reason. The national bird of India is a peacock. When you think of peacock, a lot of things would come to your mind. There are a lot of traits, a lot of characteristics, a lot of things that you will love about a peacock, and some things that you don't love about a peacock as well. Number one, when you think of a peacock, you love its beauty, its splendor, its beautiful colors, its dance in the rain. When you look at a peacock, you look at its charm and poise and grace. All of that is what comes to your mind when you think of a peacock. But you certainly don't look, you really don't like it when it sort of opens its mouth and makes a noise, right? Either calling for a mate or otherwise. It's not very pleasing to the ear. You also don't like it because it goes after snakes. And generally they say if peacocks are around, there are snakes also around. So if I see a snake anywhere in the vicinity right now, I can reach Chennai without a flight in a few seconds. That's how I love snakes, or how snakes love me. But anyway, that's a peacock. So peacock, when you think of a peacock, you get a few characteristics, you get a few traits, you can think of a few things about a peacock. But when you look at the national bird of the United States of America, it is an eagle. It's an eagle. An eagle is the national bird of the United States of America, and it's there for a particular reason. Because you see, the founding fathers of America were Christians. They were believers of Jehovah. They believed in the one true God, and they wanted to worship this one true God. That is the reason why they left their countries where they came from, and they came into a foreign land to set up their own nation. And so their national bird is the United States of America is an eagle. And it's there because in the Bible, there are references over and over and over again about this one bird called the eagle. And we're going to look at some of them as we go on. The key verse that I want to give you is obviously Isaiah 40 verses 28 to 31. Most of us know this by heart. It says, have I not told you? Can somebody read that? The first verse, the 28th verse. The everlasting God, the creators of the heavens and the earth, does not go tired or weary. His wisdom is inscrutable. And then it goes on to say that those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up their wings like the eagles. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Now that is a promise for everybody on the call today. Those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength like that of an eagle. I don't know what your strength is today. I don't know whether your strength is sapped looking at the lockdown, and there is a talk about it being extended until the end of the month. So most of our strength is being sapped out. We don't like to be locked down like this, but that's a reality. But the Bible says those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. And we're going to look at some of the characteristics of this beautiful bird. You know, when I actually was doing this session in Reliance, in one of our conferences, our chairman, Mukesh Ambani, he spoke about the eagle. And my boss was in that meeting. Immediately he wrote to me saying, John, did you share this with Mukesh Ambani? I said, no, I did not. But Mukesh Ambani he loves wildlife. In fact, one of the ways that he chills is to go to the African forests or wilderness rather, and spend time looking at nature and wild, and he loves the wild. And I remember saying, I don't call an eagle a bird, I call it an animal. I don't call it a bird, I call it an animal because it's got certain qualities or traits. And I want to talk about some of those qualities and traits of an eagle. So if you really look at the eagle, there are 9 qualities that we're going to look at today. The first quality is that an eagle is a dauntless bird. Its vision is something that we're going to see. We're going to look at its tenacity. We're looking at a bird which is very active. We are looking at its nurturing ability. It's a high flyer. Its grip is powerful. It's a loyal bird. And we're also going to look at this whole aspect of vitality. So if you really look at this slide, this is a slide that I use within the organization to train our leaders and managers how to be exceptional managers using the qualities of an eagle. And so I want us to look at each of this one by one. And when we look at it, I'm going to give you some pointers. Please take down notes. There are going to be some questions as we go through each of these qualities. So let's really look at the first quality. Dauntless. Eagle is a dauntless bird. Can someone help me? Tell me, what do you mean by dauntless? What do you understand by the term dauntless?
Fearless.
That's right. Thank you. It's fearless. Dauntless means eagle is not worried, not scared. It is not fearful of any other creature. There's no creature. If the lion is the king of the jungle, eagle is the king of the air. And it will tell you it is the king of the air. It shows his might. It shows his power. It is a dauntless bird. It's a fearless bird. And so it doesn't really get scared of any other bird. Of course, there's one bird that it's scared of, and I'll talk about that at some point of time. I hope I won't forget that point. But it is not scared of any other animal or bird. I don't know whether you've seen an eagle fight or catch a fox as it's running. If you go on YouTube, you'll probably be able to see all of that. Have you seen an eagle pick up a mountain goat out of thin air? It's a huge creature, but it pulls it up from the mountain. Have you seen an eagle fight a snake on the ground? And it's got a strategy to handle the snake as well. It's fearless. It's fearless. And there is another point about the eagle. And they say that eagle is the only bird that has the capacity to fly so high in the sky, and it's able to look into the sun directly with its eyes open. Can you imagine looking at the sun with your eyes open? I mean, don't ever try it. There are 2 times that you can try looking at the sun with your eyes open. One when it's just about rising, one when it's setting. If you try looking at the sun at any other point of time, you might lose your sight. But the eagle is a bird that looks for energy, gets its energy by looking into the sun directly with its eyes open. And so you may ask me, John, but what has that got to do with leadership? Well, we'll look at that. We'll look at that. So we said the eagle is a dauntless bird, it's a fearless bird. It also gets its energy from the sun. So let's look at the self-reflection. And this is where you need to do your bit of self-reflection with me. So it's a fearless bird. The question I have for you is, if you're working, are you a fearless manager? Are you a fearless leader? Or are you a fearless person? Should Christians be fearless? What do you think? Absolutely, yes. But how many fearless leaders do we see today? How many fearless leaders do we have in our churches? How many fearless leaders do we have in the corporates who call themselves Christians? What do we do most of the time? We play to the tune. We play to the gallery. We play to politics. But if you look at the Word of God, and if you look at the Bible, every time you look at the Word of God, there is somebody in the Bible who's fearless. Whether it's a Joseph, whether it's a Daniel, whether it's a Hananiah, Mishael, or Azariah, there is a fearless person in the Bible. And the question that you need to ask is, am I somebody who's fearless? You know, when I was looking at my own life, and I was looking at my own introspection when I was preparing this, I was pretty fearful. Maybe because of the environment I grew in, maybe because what my ecosystem was when I was growing up as a child. I grew up to be a fearful guy. I was fearful, I was shy. I would never promote myself coming to the front. I would always sit behind. I would push somebody else. You do it. Never wanting to take initiative. That was me a few years ago, till God came in and changed my life. And so you need to ask this question, am I a fearless leader? Am I a fearless manager or a person? And that's something that you need to ask. And you got to be asking this question, okay, what am I fearful about? What am I fearful about? In today's world and today's times, most of us are fearful about our future. We don't know where this pandemic is taking us. We're not sure what's going to happen. Will I have a job in a few months from now? I mean, already there's salary cuts and they're talking of layoffs, and there could be some fear. What are we fearful about? So take some time and write them down. List at least, if you can think of three, it's not a mandatory number, but think of something that's keeping you fearful. And what should you do to overcome this fear? If you're saying, yeah, I'm fearful about this, what are you going to do to overcome this fear? So I'm sort of reminded of what I heard my ex-Sunday school teacher say the other day. I just loved it when he said it. He said there was a couple living on the first floor of their home. The ground floor was actually locked up. Nobody was staying below. They were just about going to hit bed that night. And all of a sudden, both of them heard something cracking up in the floor down below. And they talked to one another and said, oh my God, looks like somebody's trying to break into our home. And so, so the husband looked at the wife and said, what do we do? And so the wife said, let's go down and see who it is, who could come into our home at this point of time. And so both of them mustered some courage and they go down. And when they go down and put the lights on, and like they predicted, there was a guy who broke into their home. Now he was masked and he had covered his face, and he had a lot of tools in his hand and very, very pointy stuff that could even pierce your skin and bone. And he had that all in his hand. And so he looked at the couple and said, okay, tell me what you have in your house. I don't have too much time here. So both of them are rattling and shivering and almost in tears. When the wife took some courage and said, no, we don't have anything in the house. I mean, most of the stuff is outside of the house. So the guy looks at the wife and says, okay, what's your name? And she says, my name is Elizabeth. To which the guy said, oh, your name is Elizabeth. My mother's name is Elizabeth, so I won't do anything to you. And looked at the husband and said, okay, what's your name? To which the husband looked at the man and said, my name is Jimmy, but everyone almost calls me Elizabeth. So the question is, what are you fearful about? What are you concerned about? What keeps you awake at night? When you hit your bed, what gets you rattled? What gets you upset? That is something that you need to handle. An eagle is a fearless bird. I gotta be fearless managers who can handle this. And the other thing is that I told you, the eagle is the only bird has the ability to look into the sun directly with its eyes open and gets its energy for the day. I want to play around that word. It looked at the sun, S-U-N. You and I can look at the sun to get our energy. The Son of God, the Lamb of God, Jesus Christ, he gives us the energy. The sun is something that God created. He created the heavens and the earth. He created the sun, the moon, and the stars. Jesus gives us the energy. So my question to you is, do you look at Jesus every day in the morning? Do you look at him as the first thing in your life? Is he the first thing in your life before you get to doing the normal routine stuff of your life? And that is something that you need to ask yourself. Can you look at the sun to get the energy? And I love this character, David. You know, he's one of my favorite characters in the Bible. You know, when he actually goes to fight Goliath, he has his conversation with Saul, King Saul, and they're all terrified. They are petrified. They are shaking in their legs. And because Goliath comes 40 days, 40 nights, and 40 evenings, and he's haunting them. And David looks at Saul and asks this question, you know, why are you guys so scared? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine who has the guts to dare the armies of the living God? That is David. And you know why he had that kind of guts? You see, before he could become a warrior, David was a worshiper. He was a worshiper of Jehovah God before he could be used as a warrior. I wonder if there are worshipers in this group. I wonder if there are people who love worship. I wonder if people here in this group love to worship the King of Kings. Before you can fight a war, before you can fight an enemy, you got to be going into the house to worship him. That's when you get the power to fight your enemy. And so I just want to pause here for a minute. I want you to take down these notes and ask this question. Am I fearful about something? You know, every day, 4:30, 6:30, we actually pray for the pandemic. And, you know, Anand Pillai keeps saying this, you know, there's almost 400,000 people, you know, who have died, or I don't know the exact number now, but the numbers that are hitting in terms of the infections could be running in millions, 4 million, right? And can you imagine there is another few billions who actually die just because of the fear and anxiety? And so what is it that you're fearful about? Take it to the Lord, give it to the Lord, let him handle it. So the first thing that we saw about an eagle is it's a dauntless bird. The second is its vision. Take a look at this beautiful bird. A close-up shot of an eagle. I think this is the bald-headed eagle. Look at that eye. Look at that eye. You know, the other day I got a WhatsApp, and I'm sure you would have got this WhatsApp about a close-up shot of an eagle blinking its eyes in slow motion. Did you get to see it? If you haven't, you got to see that. It's fabulous. It's like a small shield, you know, like a wiper going in and out. A thin membrane, you know, white membrane just closing its eyes and opening its eyes, and it goes sideways. It's not like how we blink from top to bottom. It goes sideways. It's fabulous. And its vision, they say the eagle has got a vision of a 5-mile radius when it's flying in the air. 5-mile radius. Some say 3-kilometer radius, and that's good enough for us to understand what 3-kilometer is. Can you imagine 3-kilometer radius vision? And it can see its target miles away when it's flying high in the air. What has that got to do with leadership? What has that got to do with leadership? The self-reflection we need to ask ourselves is this: The eagle has a 5-mile radius and can go for its kill when flying high in the sky. How about you? Now, please don't decide to kill anybody. That's not what my intent is. Are you able to look far into the future of what you want to become in life? Has God given you a vision of how He wants you to live on this planet Earth? What's your vision? I normally say this, many of us, in fact, 99% of the world population live for 1, 2, 3, 4 reasons. And the 1, 2, 3, 4 are one spouse, 2 children, a 3-bedroom apartment, and a 4-wheeler. Let me repeat that again. A spouse, 2 children, a 3-bedroom apartment, a 4-wheeler. This is what 99% of the world population are living for. Can you imagine how short-sighted it is? If that is your vision, and that is the only reason why you're living is for 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me give you the good news. Wait long enough, you will get the 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't have to do anything. You wait a little longer in life, you will get all the 1, 2, 3, 4s. But for heaven's sake, please don't reverse that order. I want to just let it sink for you. Because when you reverse the order, immediately you guys are thinking of 4 husbands or 4 wives. I'm not thinking of that. I'm thinking of somebody riding a single-tired vehicle, and the single-tired vehicle guy riding a single-tired vehicle is found in a circus. Is your life and my life a circus? You're doing this, you're doing that, I'm doing that. Somebody asked me to do this. And so I'm doing so much that I'm not sure, what am I doing? What am I doing? And so we need to ask ourselves this question, what is my vision? So you got to ask this question, what vision do you have for yourself? How do you want to finish your life? We're doing a beautiful book study right now, a group of men and women called the Stamina. We're doing this book study about purpose-driven life. And in fact, this morning, we just had Brother Murli actually doing that chapter 8 for us. All right. What is God's vision for you, and how do you want to finish your life? If you don't start with God, you will end up getting a lot of other answers. God has a plan. God has a reason for your existence and my existence. And so you got to understand what it is, but you need to start with God. If you've not read that book, Purpose Driven Life, let me encourage you to pick up that book. There's a PDF available. You can download that if you can't get the physical copy right now. Get the PDF and start reading the book. It's a book that'll bless you. What's the vision that you have for yourself? Now, if you are working, you're a corporate and you're working, what's the vision that you have for your function, your department, the business that you're running in? And if you're in a church, what's the vision for your church? What's the vision that you have for your function, your department, your business that you have, and the church that you are part of? Do all of this have a vision? Or you're just going with the motions day in, day out? Let's do something. Let's try something for the sake of trying because you have to do something. Or do you have a vision? What's a vision that you have for your family, your spouse, your children? That's a difficult question even for me to handle, because sometimes we don't even think of family having a vision. What do you mean family having a vision? What do you mean children having a vision? Let them do what they want to do. Well, yes, but are you pointing them to Jesus? Are they also starting with God with regards to their future, with regards to what they should do? To ask these questions. And of course, my favorite character from the Bible is Joseph. He had 2 dreams, 2 visions given by God. When was the last time you had a vision from God? Are you in praying for a vision? Or are you saying that is reserved for Joseph? Many times we read it and we're happy that, Joseph got visions. Well, I think God is really upset because none of us are asking for visions. I want to ask God and say, God, I need a vision from you. I want to see some things like what Joseph saw. Give me a vision. I want to see what the vision of God is. And it's not just reserved for somebody who is in the Bible. We need Josephs, we need Davids, and we need Daniels, even in our times today. And you could be a candidate, I could be a candidate. We need to have a vision from God. And so the second quality is this quality of vision. Let me just pause for a brief while and so that you can take down these and answer them as we go by. All right, the third quality. The third quality of an eagle is it's tenacious. Its tenacity is incredible. What is tenacious? It's a bird that will never give up. It's a bird that will never give up. Leaders never give up. And it's the only bird that has the capacity to fly into a storm when a storm hits that particular place. Every other bird, every other creature, whether you have a dog or a cat in your house, they will run for cover because they can sense and they can get the frequencies of a storm much ahead of what human beings are capable of getting. And you will see their behaviors being very different. They will go into hiding. They will get into a closet. They will move away into hiding. But an eagle is the only bird that flies into a storm, has the capacity to fly into a storm. Why does it do that? Because an eagle knows that the easiest part to be in a storm is the eye of the storm, because the eye of the storm is the calmest part of the storm. And it goes into the eye of the storm. It's the calmest part of the storm, and it then breaks that eye and gets into a higher part of that storm, breaking through the eye of the storm, but it goes into the storm. And so if you really look at a leadership lesson for us in terms of self-reflection, as I said, the eagle is the only bird that loves the storm and flies directly into one. Every other bird or animal would run for cover and run for safety from a storm. How about you? How do you handle life's storms? Do you run into a storm or do you run away from a storm? Many of us would love to run away from a storm. How many of you are praying to God saying, God, send me problems in my life? There's too little in my life today, Lord. Bring me some more tomorrow. Anybody praying like that? Everybody, in fact, will be praying, Lord, I am in a storm. Get me out of a storm. Get me out of the mess. But look at this. An eagle flies into a storm. It goes into the problem. It takes the problem head on. And I love what Bishop T.D. Jakes said at one point in time. He said, all of us have problems. You are either in a problem, or you came out of a problem, or you're getting into a problem. Either way, you and I have problems. So we have company. There's nobody in this world who does not have a problem. Everybody in this world has a problem. And sometimes when a problem hits us, we look at ourselves and say, why is it happening only to me? It's happening only to you because you and I don't talk to somebody else because they're also going through a problem. You know, yesterday we had a session about happiness at the workplace. Pretty interesting one. But you see, you and I will never be happy if we only handle our own problems. You and I will be happy when we know that somebody else has got a problem and we do something about their problem. When we try and do something about their problem, our problems become so light and it looks so small as compared to what somebody else is going. Can you imagine? You and I have the luxury of having good food. We've got safety. We've got shelter. We've got all of that in this pandemic. There are people in Navi Mumbai. There are people in Bombay who do not have 3 square meals to eat. They don't have the facilities of going to a good doctor or being treated for the pandemic. There are problems. There are people with problems out there. And you and I need to be thankful that you don't have those problems. But when you look at our problems, saying somebody didn't talk to me this morning very well, you are kidding me. Look at somebody else's problem. Try and do something for somebody else's problem. Your problem will become minuscule when you actually look at that. And that's how happiness grows in this world. When you try and do something for somebody else, you become happier. And so the question is, how are you handling your problems? The question I have for you is, are you going through a storm in your life today? You may be going through a storm. In 2015, I went through depression. For 8 months, I went through depression. I went through a storm. I didn't even know it hit me. I went through depression. I got up one day. In fact, the previous day, I went into praise and worship, and I was thanking God and I was praising God. That was September, end September. 1st of October, I got up with a depression. I didn't know it was depression, but I faced depression. And I would go to the bathroom. I would look at myself in the mirror when I was about to brush my teeth. I would just cry looking at myself for no reason. I had no reason why I was doing what I was doing, but I would look at myself and just cry. I would just feel a weight on me. I didn't feel like going to office. I didn't feel like praising God. I didn't feel like taking my guitar and worshiping God. I didn't feel like doing anything. I lost interest in almost everything that I was doing. I didn't know it was depression until someone told me, John, this might be depression. But the first thing that I did was I started rallying prayer. I told people to pray for me. I don't know. I told them, I don't know what I'm going through. I think I'm going through something. I don't know what it is, but pray for me. I had my sister who was praying for me. I had a church praying for me. So what is the storm that you're going through today? What problems do you have in life? And what steps are you planning to take to handle these problems? Are you going to run away from the problems, or are you going to handle the problems head on? If you look at the life of Apostle Paul, he was tenacious. He was tenacious. 2 Corinthians 11, 23 to 27. Let's turn our Bibles to 2 Corinthians 11, 23 to 27. Let me read that for you. Are they ministers of Christ? I speak as a fool. I am more. In labors more abundant, and stripes above measure. In prisons more frequently, in deaths often. For the Jews, 5 times from the Jews, 5 times I received 40 stripes minus 1. That is 39 stripes. 5 times. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. A night and a day I have been in the deep. In journeys often, in perils of water, in perils of robbers, in perils of my own countrymen, in perils of the Gentiles, in perils in the city, in the perils in the wilderness, in the perils in the sea, in the perils among false brethren, in weariness and toil, in sleeplessness often, in hunger and thirst, in fastings often, in cold and nakedness. Besides the other things, what comes upon me daily, my deep concern for all the churches. Can you imagine the tenacity this man had? For he wrote then 2/3 of the New Testament. Tenacity, never gave up. Even in the prison, when he was locked up, locked down, Paul was used by God to write a few epistles. What storm are you fighting today? What difficulty and challenge do you have? Take it to God. Let his power, let his spirit give you the power to fight, go through the storm, go into the storm like the eagle. The fourth is my favorite. The fourth quality of an eagle is it's a nurturing bird. It's a nurturing bird. It nurtures its young ones one at a time. An eagle is not like a hen. It's not a duck. It's not like a duck that gives birth to many ducklings or many chicks. It's got max 1 or 2. And then what it does is it nurtures its young ones one at a time. One at a time. Look at this picture. It's got 2 young chicks, eaglets. And it nurtures its young ones one at a time. They say that, at some point of time, these baby eaglets would be good enough and big enough for it to starting to fly, but it will not be able to fly because you got to know a few reasons. I'm going to tell you that. Most of you know that an eagle builds its nest either in the tallest tower, the tallest tree, or the tallest mountaintop. It doesn't build its nest at shallow places because it can get attacked. And so it takes the tallest tree or pole or whatever, and on top of it, it builds its nest. And it's fascinating how it builds its nest. I mean, some of it is there in this visual. I was listening to somebody, and this particular lady was saying that the eagle's nest has got 4 different layers. And it builds its nest on 4 different layers. The first layer is the softest part of the nest. And you can see that in this picture. It's got hay, it's got grass. And so the eaglets are comfortable in the grass and in the hay. But sooner or later, when the mother and the father eagle feeds the baby eaglets, they're going to put on weight. And when they put on weight, they're going to bump into something outside of the hay or the grass, because now they're going to bump into twigs. And so when they bump into twigs, it makes them a little uncomfortable. And then some more weight, the baby eaglet would go beyond those twigs, and now they hit something called twigs with spikes on it or thorns on it. And it's even more uncomfortable staying in the nest. And the last layer is a layer of rocks, which are thorny and which are pokey. And now with its weight as big as an adult, it goes past all the 3 layers and hits those rocks, makes him completely uncomfortable staying in the nest. And now it says, okay, enough of me being in the nest. I want to fly like my dad. I want to fly like my mom. And it goes to the edge of the nest. And when it goes to the edge of the nest and looks down, it almost has a heart attack, because it's now at a height that it's never seen before. I've never seen such height. What did my mother and father think? Why did they even think of putting a nest so high? Is what the baby eaglet is thinking. And then it tries to fly. It's not able to fly. It doesn't have the confidence to fly. And as it's sitting on the edge of the nest, the mother eagle would come and just give it a nudge. From that height, the baby eaglet would start to topple and to come down and fall. And it's toppling and turning and toppling and turning. And from that height, it's almost going to hit the ground. It is calling its dad. It's calling its mom. It is saying the Lord's Prayer. It's saying everything possible. Nobody is coming to its aid. Just before hitting the ground, the father eagle would come and pick it up on its back and go and put it back on the nest again. That was induction day 1. Day 2, it again stands at the nest and tries to fly. It's not able to fly. When the mother eagle gives it one more nudge, and the same thing happens. And it's tumbling and falling and tumbling and falling. And now it's not only calling for its mother, it's calling for its father, it's calling for the grandmother, grandfather. It is saying the Lord's Prayer. It is saying every prayer possible. Nobody's hearing anything. Just before it crashes, the mother eagle comes and picks it up again and puts it back on the nest one more time. And this happens till the baby eaglet is able to fly. Because one day, when it's tumbling and turning, the baby eaglet suddenly realizes, oh my God, I have wings to fly. It looks at its wings and it starts to flap its wings, and it's able to take the power of the breeze and start to flying all by itself. That's how a baby eaglet is trained by its parent, one at a time. And you probably heard me. The training happens primarily by the father eagle. It's by the dad. And when I heard that the first time, it was like a bullet going through my head. And I'll tell you why. So let's look at the self-reflection on this point. So how's your leadership of people to whom you're responsible? Are you able to develop them, giving them quality time with those who report to you and have influence upon? How is your leadership style? How are you developing your people? Do you nurture your people? Do you nurture your people who work with you? You know, every time I talk to somebody in the corporate, I can only hear saying my boss is making my life miserable. Some of you can probably relate to it straight away. I hope your boss is not on this call. If yes, just don't smile. Just look at me and just act as though nothing is happening. Can you be different as a Christian boss? Can you be a different kind of a boss? Can you be a boss who will nurture your people? Can you be a boss? Can I be a boss where we can nurture people and help them to be and bring out the best in them? Can you? Can I? Because that's the ask of the Heavenly Father. That's what Jesus did. That's what Jesus did. I'm actually doing a project right now, looking at the life of Jesus, and I don't know how far or how long it'll take, but I'm really looking at that because you see, there's only one leader in the entirety of history who looked at his disciples and made the statement in John chapter 14 and verses 12, saying, if you believe in me, the things that you do, the things that I do, you will do also, and greater things will you do, because I go to the Father. I'm yet to hear any corporate leader saying, I want my person working under me to be better than me. Only Jesus has made that statement. Only he can. And I told you this, the eagle's nest has 4 different layers. Each layer gets uncomfortable. How's your management leadership style at your home, at your office? What's your leadership style? Do you make it uncomfortable for people, stretch them? Do you push them into areas where you know that they've got the strength, but they will do it wonderfully? Or do you push them into areas that you know that they're going to sink for sure? What's your leadership style? Are you nurturing anyone, giving them individual attention? If yes, name some of them. Why don't you take time? And if you are a leader, if you're a manager, can you write down somebody's name out there saying, God, I want to invest into this person. I want to invest this person in my office, in my church, at home. I want to invest into the lives of this person. Can I be somebody who's nurturing? Can you think of some names here and write them down? And this is the one that hit me between my eyes. How have you been as a role of as a father? Have you been able to nurture your children or child the way that an eagle gives it individual attention? You know, if an eagle can actually give its eaglets individual attention, you and I can just never give excuses that I don't have time to nurture my children. You know, today we nurture our children by actually outsourcing that whole activity to a creche. How are you nurturing your children? Who's bringing them up? Is the maid bringing it up? Is the creche bringing the children up? Or is it the father and the mother investing in the lives of the children? You see, it's very easy to go the Western way. It's very easy to go the way of the West. In fact, you and I need to ask this question in the pandemic. What is God trying to tell us? What's God trying to teach us? Most of us are taking the things from the West blindly because it's coming from the West. Do we even ask questions? Is this right, wrong? Is it biblical, non-biblical? What are we asking? What's the role of the father? How has been the role of a father? I've got 3 children. I think I did a bad job because I was concerned about working. I was concerned about bringing money into the house to an extent that I spent least amount of time with them. And today they're grown up. They're almost adults. I don't think I'll get those precious years again with them. So are we making these blunders and mistakes over and over again without learning from them? What's the role of the father? If you really look at the life of Jesus, Jesus was not a man of mass. He was always a man of a few. He had 12 disciples, and then within the 12, he had 3 of them that he actually invested his life in extremely. Peter, James, and John. One became the spokesperson of the church. Another person became a leader of the church before he was executed. And the third person became a bishop before he died at the Isle of Patmos. Are you nurturing anybody? Take some time and reflect on this nurturing aspect of the eagle. So let me pause here for a second and ask Chrysolette or Tina, do we have any questions coming up from people, or is it good for us to do it at the end of the session?
Please type in the chat if you have any questions.
Okay. So far nobody has questions. So either I have confused them so much or they don't know where to start. Anyway, good. So if there are questions or comments, yeah, please go ahead and chat, and we'll probably take it at the end of the session. Let's move on. Let's go to the fifth. And the fifth one is the eagle is a high flyer. I love this. Eagle is a high flyer. You will not see an eagle fly at the range of a crow, a sparrow, a parrot. An eagle flies high. Its altitude is right above. I mean, sometimes you look at an eagle, you can see it now. In a few seconds, you can't see it because it's gone beyond your eyesight. It's lost in the sky. It flies high, but it also has the capacity to come down quickly to the earth in a few seconds. That's the power of an eagle. It can fly high. It can also come down quickly. Now, what has that got to do with leadership? It's got a lot of things to do with leadership. High flyer. So the question you need to ask us is, do you have the ability to think strategic when required and be equally good at handling issues at an operational level? You know, some of us, we are either at the either end of the spectrum. You're either good operationally or you're good strategically, but you're not good at both. But a leader has to be good at both. You got to be operationally sound, which means you can put your hands in, get it dirty, but you also can, at points of time, take your hand out and look at the big picture and come from a strategic point of view. So, as I said, when I started, I'm a Gallup coach, and when I do the Gallup training, the Strengths Finder actually gives us 4 distinct domains that you and I fall into. 1 is an executing domain, 2 is an influencing domain, 3rd is a relationship building domain, and 4th is strategic thinking domain. You can be strong in either all 4, or 1 of the 4, or 2 of the 4, or 3 of the 4. So my question to you is, are you strong executing things, or are you good at influencing other people, or are you good at relationship building with other people, or are you a strategic thinker? What are you good at? Because if you don't know what you're good at, you're not going to be good at using them at the workplace. And so Strengths Finder tells me that I'm good. So when I did my strengths, I came out strong in 2 of these domains. My number 1 strength amongst the 4 is relationship building. I'm a people's person. I invest in the lives of people. I can connect with people. I strike a good relationship with people in just my first meeting. That's my strength. I'm also into strategic thinking. I always think about tomorrow. I'm not concerned about today. I'm not concerned about yesterday. I'm constantly thinking about what should I be doing tomorrow. I'm always looking at tomorrow. I'm always looking at future. I'm always looking at the next project. And so that keeps me excited. That keeps me going, right? So you got to know what gets you excited. And so that'll help you. But ask this question. Are you good operationally and strategic? The question I have for you is, are you a cabin manager or a participating manager? Meaning, are you somebody who sits in the cabin and expect everybody to come and see you in the cabin? Or are you somebody who gets out of the cabin and meets people on the floor? A lot of managers love the cabin. Oh, they love the cabin that they don't even go out of it until it's going out home. Get out of that cabin. Move with your people. Ken Blanchard calls it the management by walking around. Are you a walking around manager? Are you walking and checking your people, connecting with your people, high-fiving your people, cracking a joke with your person there, exciting them, encouraging them? Get out of that cabin. Participate with them. When required, sit in the cabin, no problem. But don't be somebody who's just stuck in the cabin and expect everybody to come there. What kind of a leader do you like to follow? One who sits and orders, or the one who comes down to your level and connects? What kind of a leader do you like to work with? What kind of a leader would you want to be? Can you imagine Jesus just sitting in heaven and ordering you, saying, do this, John, do that, do that. No, don't do this. I mean, we have a God we can connect. We can go to him at any time. I don't need to have a secretary to give me a time to connect with Jesus. There's a song that says that, no secretary can tells me what time I should go to Jesus. I just can go to Jesus anytime. I talk to Jesus anytime, any place, anywhere. That's the kind of leader that you and I should be. King Solomon is a great example of this. He was the brightest, the sharpest, the wisest, built quite a bit, a man of wisdom, but he also used the same wisdom to solve common man's problems. You know what he did when two women came and asked him a very, very difficult question? King Solomon used his wisdom. That's what he asked God. He didn't ask for money. He didn't ask for fame. He didn't ask for wealth. He asked God, saying, God, I need wisdom to rule your people. And God gave him that. So are you a high flyer? Are you somebody? And on this, I just want to give that point, which I said, I hope I don't forget it. You see, there's only one bird that the eagle is concerned and worried about. And this bird is almost double the size of an eagle. It's called a condor. And a condor can kill an eagle in a matter of few seconds if it catches it. If it catches, the question is if. And the only way it can catch an eagle is if the eagle drops its altitude of flying. Because a condor, because of its wingspan, cannot go into the heights of an eagle. It can only go to a particular altitude. But if the eagle flies at that altitude where the condor flies, the condor will attack and kill it. That by itself is a great learning for me and a lesson for me. How do I make sure that I don't drop my altitude? Is to keep my level of excellence to a level where nobody will be able to catch up with me. If my level of excellence in my corporate life, in what I do at my job, in what I do every day of my life, if it's at the level of excellence that the condor cannot approach it, no problem, because you can't get to me. I'm already there. I'm already high. I'm at the highest level. I can only get it higher because the condor cannot attack me. But you will get hit if you drop your level of excellence and come down. That's when others will try and strike you. They will hit you. And so never drop your levels of excellence. Never drop your levels of excellence. We have, at least in India, we have a poor reputation of keeping to excellence. But you see, we have changed considerably as a nation. Can you imagine a train starting at 5:30 sharp from your platform? 5:30. 5:31, the train is gone. Can you imagine an India like that today? There used to be a time when you used to sit in the train, expecting the train to move at 5:30. Come 5:45, it's still in the station. Come 6 o'clock, it's still in the station. But that India has changed. Why? Because somebody realized the importance of keeping to time. Because they respect your time as well. Excellence is something that you and I should not be ever compromising. Ever. Can never compromise on excellence. So if you don't compromise on your levels of excellence and don't drop your altitude, your competitors will not be able to come to you. You will have competitors. Now maybe there are condors. Your condors are probably on this call. Don't worry. That's a joke. That's just a joke, all right? Don't take me seriously. All right, let's move on. Number 6 is the grip. Take a look at this picture. That fish is finished. It's lunch, it's dinner, it's breakfast for that eagle. It's not going to give up that fish. It's actually just caught it with, one nail has gone into the flesh of the fish. And that's the only one that's holding that fish. It is not going to give up that fish at all. The grip of an eagle is solid. I don't know how many of you would have had a parrot as a pet when you were young. I did not have one, but I used to have friends who had parrots, and we used to go to Kerala and they would say, this is my parrot, and we would say so excited looking at a parrot in a cage. And without knowing, there are times when I just gave my finger to a parrot. And the next thing is I saw heaven and earth together at the same time. The bite of a parrot is so painful. It can cut through your flesh. Now multiply that bite of a parrot 100 times over. is the bite of an eagle. The bite of an eagle, I mean, it can tear the roughest of skin. I've seen an eagle pull up the skin of a wild lizard in the African soil, tearing up that lizard just by its bite. The grip of an eagle with its feet is so solid that, I mean, it is not going to give up. The grip is so solid. I'm sure you would have seen National Geographic and other channels where people train falcons. They train falcons, and then the man who trains the falcon then lets the falcon come and rest on his hand. He will never give his hand to a falcon without doing two things. One is putting a leather cast over his hand, right? And on top, or rather, before the leather cast, there is a metal cast first, and then on the metal cast, there's a leather cast. Without that, he will never give his hand, because if he gives his hand without that, he can forget his hand. That hand is gone, because every time the falcon sits and flies, it can pull out flesh, because that's the power of the grip of a falcon. And the grip of an eagle is even more powerful. Now, you may say, John, what has that got to do with leadership? Well, let's look at it. Self-reflection on the grip. What about you? What values and principles do you hold dear? Like the grip and the bite of an eagle, what principles or values will you not even compromise? What will you not compromise? And I can't think of anybody better than two people, Joseph, Daniel, and his friends. And that's why I feel so terrible that we still talk of the Old Testament characters, but we can't talk of people in our times. I can't look at somebody and say, or there are people, but it's very few. I can't look at somebody in the corporate and say, hey, look at that guy. He will never compromise on this area. We always look at the Bible and look at a Joseph and look at a Daniel, and we are happy doing that. Nothing wrong with that, because they established that, and that's why it's in the Word. But where are the Josephs, and where are the Daniels, and where are the Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariahs of today? What values and principles do you hold dear and would never compromise? Write down 2 or 3 values and principles that you hold dear and are deep convictions for you. What are some values that, come what may, it's no way I'm going to do that. There are times when I've been pushed to the edge and I've compromised. I can think of at least 2 times when that's the last thing that I should have done, but because I was pushed, I had no choice. I was pushed to the wall and I compromised. We need people who don't compromise on values and principles in the corporate world, in the church world, in the family world. We need people who don't compromise. I'm sure you have a value or an instance where you can say, John, I was pushed to the wall, but I didn't compromise. I'm sure you'll be able to share that. I can think of, when I was growing up in a team called the Navodaya team in Chennai, there was a girl with us. Her name is Amu. She's currently in the United States of America. She was working in a school, and there was an audit in the school. And before the audits came, the officials called all the teachers and they said, there's an audit going to happen. So I want you guys to sort of tamper your reports so that the school will look good. To which I think Amu said, went on to the principal and said, sir, I can't do that. I'm a Christian. To which the principal said, well, you have a choice. You either do it or you have no job. To which Amu said, I think I'll take the latter. I don't need a job. And she left. Didn't compromise, didn't give into that situation. She walked out from that school. Today, she's blessed in the United States of America. We need people like that who'll be able to take a stand when the push comes to the shove. You and I will stand up and say, no, I can't do it. You know why the world is not changing? Go look yourself in the mirror. You'll find the answer. Because there are no great role models in our society today, including us. And so we need a Graham Staines, we need Mother Teresa's, we need a lot more people in our country, in our situations now. And Joseph, what a character he was in the Old Testament. When Potiphar's wife tries to entice him, he looks at her and she comes for that move. When she grabs him by the dress, he knows what to do. He just leaves the dress with her and runs away. That's it. Run on, move ahead, go on. And I don't know whether you've seen this, it's happening right now to me, especially being so mobile and so technology savvy. Today, your temptations come on the mobile phone. You're actually watching something on Facebook, you're watching something, and all of a sudden you see something very exciting and your eyes catch that, and then there's a temptation. You got to be like Joseph. You got to be fleeing from that situation. Otherwise, you're in. We need people who will have values and principles and who will be able to exhibit them for the world to see. And so that is important. Grip. So that is the sixth one. And the next one is an eagle is an active bird. And the beauty about the eagle is it's an eagle, or rather it's a bird that does not feed on dead things. It does not feed on dead things. An eagle is not like a crow. It is not like a vulture. It is not like another bird that can live on something which is dead. An eagle has to fight. An eagle has to hunt. An eagle has to chase. An eagle has to go after something, catch it in the live, and then kill it. That is an eagle. You'll seldom see sometimes. You'll probably see sometimes an eagle lives on dead things. What you see here in India is not an eagle. It's an actual variant of an eagle. It's called a kite. And you'll see that actually picking up garbage and dead stuff and all that. But an eagle literally does not do it. It does not live on dead stuff because it always wants to keep that instinct of hunting going on and on and on. And therefore, it loves the chase. It loves the thrill of chasing a rabbit. It loves the thrill of chasing a fish and catching it live and then killing it. What has that got to do with leadership? How about you? Do you live on past glory? Are you looking at doing new things today? And I remember talking to my colleague and friend, Anand Bhatnagar, I think he's on the call today. This line which says, when was the last time you tried something new for the very first time? Let me repeat that again. When was the last time you tried something new for the very first time? Look at our lives. It's programmed, is it not? As an alarm that wakes us up. We get up, we go and brush our teeth, and we start doing the routines of the day. Every day, it's just the same, in and out. When was the last time you did something new for the very first time? You see, if your life is not going to be exciting if you don't start doing something new. You got to do something new. New things excite me. And that's why, I told you I'm already somebody who looks into the future. If you want to kill me, just get me to do the same thing over and over again. You'll soon have to do an autopsy. I like to do new things. Even if it's the same presentation, I'd like to do it slightly differently. I'd like to crack a joke that I didn't crack before. I'd like to do something different. That gets me excited. Otherwise, doing the same thing over and over again, it is monotonous. It can kill me to death. New things. And some of us, we always look at the past. When we look at the glory of the past, we look at, I was a topper in college. I was a topper in school. Great. How about today? Are you a topper today at work? Are you the number one employee at work? Are you the best employee? Are you the most creative employee? What happened to the number one position in school and college? Are you the number one employee now? We look at the past, and a lot of people who look into their past and live in the past. There are a lot of people who are dying because they're looking at their past. I know so many people who are upset because somebody told them something 20 years ago and they're still upset about that, and they are living as though the person told it yesterday. Can you imagine that? Somebody who said, in fact, there are some people who are all dead and gone, and the person is still thinking about what that person said. Even though the person is dead and gone, the person is still thinking about what that person said and still messing up their life today. Can you imagine living on dead things? What is dead in your life? What is something that keeping you from being who you are? What is it that is decaying, that is stinking? It is rotten. You need to throw it down. You need to get it out of your life. Look at life in the best of your ability. Look at something that is new, fresh. You got to look at it. Don't live in the dead things of the past. Look at new things. And this is what the Apostle Paul says so beautifully. Forgetting the past, but pressing towards the higher calling, the upward calling of Jesus Christ. Forgetting the past. Here is the man who has got credentials that none of us can even compare. A Pharisee of Pharisees. He studied under Gamaliel. He came as the best mind. He was probably the brightest student under Gamaliel. He's saying, forgetting the past. I don't want to even remember what I am, but pressing towards the higher calling of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Forget your past. Look what you can do in the life that God is giving you. New things, fresh ideas, new creative things. In this pandemic, if you don't have ideas right now in the pandemic, I'm telling you, you and I will become worthless soon. If you can't take the opportunity to think new things and to create new things in this pandemic right now, which God has given us, take time to think of new things to do. We'll be wasting our lives. And I know most of you are muted, and therefore you could have probably not asked me a question, or maybe I don't know whether it's come in the chat. You would have seen that I moved from 6 to 8, and most of you are asking what happened to the 7th. Some of you are saying, oh, I didn't even notice that. Don't worry. So I will come to the 7th. 7th is my last point, and I'll come to that. The 9th point is that eagle is a loyal bird. It's committed to its partner for life. They say if an eagle gets a mate, that mate is for life. Some of you are saying, John, tell me another joke. No. Let me repeat that again. It's not a joke. When an eagle gets a mate, that mate is for life. And the question is, how loyal are we? How loyal are you to your spouse? Are you loyal? Should you be? How about your boss at work? What's your favorite subject when you sit in the dining table with your family? Is it your boss? I hope not. I hope it's not your organization. I mean, some of us, we gossip so much and we love to talk about somebody else. My God, I've met some of them. Amazing ability to talk about negatives of somebody else. Are we loyal? Do we have loyalty in us? How about being loyal to our neighbors, our friends, my mother, my father, my sister, my brother? Are we loyal? Are we loyal? And are there any relationships that you need to set right today? Are you being disloyal to a relationship, either in personal life or in official life? Do you have somebody in your family that you've never spoken in ages? Do you have somebody in your family that you've never even seen them? You know, the other day I was listening to, or rather I was speaking to a very senior leader in Reliance. And he became so emotional. He said, John, thank God for this pandemic. I got to see my great-grandchildren, some of them that I've never even seen because they're in a foreign country. But because of technology and because of Zoom and all of that, all of a sudden I started to see them miles away. I haven't seen them since they were born. Today I'm able to see them. Do you have a relationship where that needs to be stitched, that needs to be connected back? Do you have somebody in your life that you need to connect back and say, I'm sorry that I've not got in touch with you. I just wanted to say hi. Do you have anybody like that where you want to keep that loyalty factor going? You know, the life of Jesus and the principles of Jesus and the kingdom of God is entirely the reverse of the things of the kingdom of the world. He says, when you go and when you're ready to have communion, or when you're at the altar, and God reminds you of a relationship that has not been set right, and you know that a brother has something against you, the Bible says, go first reconcile with your brother. Then come. You know, it's so difficult, you know, that's why Christianity is very difficult to sort of exemplify and live. Without Christ and without the Holy Spirit, you and I will not be able to do something that Jesus said. I mean, I know somebody that he's the one who's upset me. And I know that's lingering in my heart. But God is saying, set that relationship right before you come into the altar. You go. It's tough. That's when you die to self and get God to come in. And so I hope there's no relationships that are bad that you want to set right today. If there are, go ahead after this call and connect with them and just say, I felt like connecting and saying hi to you. King Solomon. Oh, why did I put that here? Yeah, when King Solomon, look at this guy. I mean, this guy is, I really can't understand this guy. You know, I can't manage with one wife. This guy had 600 wives and 300 concubines. How did he manage these? Do you think he was loyal? I mean, I don't think loyalty ever was part of his dictionary. 600 wives and 300 concubines. Are you kidding me? I'm finding it difficult in some relationships. Just one person in your life. And God is saying, be loyal. Be loyal to your spouse. Come what may. Whatever difficulty in your marriage, whatever difficulty in that relationship, be loyal to that person. And you cannot, if you don't allow the Holy Spirit to give you that strength. In your strength, you will fall. In your strength, you will fail. But with God, all things are possible. So let me go to the last one. The seventh point. And that is this whole concept of vitality. I just love this, but they say that this part is criticized by some of the people who study the eagle, but I like the analogy. They say that the eagle lives as long as a human being, 70 to 80 years. And somewhere in the 35th year or the 40th year of an eagle goes into something called a midlife crisis, very much like human beings. And if you're in the 45, 50 kind of, or even 35 to 45, that window, many of us go through midlife crisis. And one of the symptoms, or one of the ways to find out if somebody is going through a midlife crisis is just to look at the middle of their body. And if the middle of the body is growing extensively, you know the person is going through a midlife crisis. No, I'm just kidding. So the eagle goes through a midlife crisis. Let me tell you what causes the midlife crisis for an eagle. Number one, it's beak, right? Look at the beak of an eagle. It's sharp. I told you it can bite into a skin which is rugged and tough. And because it's biting it for so many years, for 40, 45 years, now the beak starts to bend a little inwards. And because it's bending inwards, it's not able to pluck flesh like before or tear skin like before. And so it goes into an isolation. It goes into isolation. It looks for two things. It looks for running water, fresh stream of water, and it looks for honey. If it gets honey and running water, it will get into isolation. And what it does after that is phenomenal. It goes to a rock and hits its beak against the rock till the beak breaks. Now, if you want to know how painful it is, please get up from where you are, go to the wall close by and bang your nose. That's how painful it is for the eagle. It breaks its beak. Why? Because it knows my beak is useless. I can't tear flesh like before. And so it breaks its beak. And so it lives on water, running water, fresh water, and it lives on honey. Running water, honey, and it survives that period of isolation. Sometimes the mate is there, and the mate would probably come and give it some flesh to live on that it can probably eat. But over time, the beak starts to grow. And so a fresh beak begins to grow for the eagle. And the beak comes back to the original position when it was a young eagle. It is sharp, it is razor focused, and it can tear into skin. But before it gets into hunting, it does a few other things. It looks at its body, and it knows that this body for 40, 45 years has flown into every storm of the city, of the town that it lives in, or the wilderness that it's lived in. And because it's gone into every storm, there are feathers that are loose and feathers which are, it's about to fall. So it pulls its feather out of its body, which are loose, and it thinks it's not required. Now, if you want to know how painful that is, pull your neighbor's hair. If you have a reaction, you know how painful that is. If you want to know how painful it is, pull your own hair. Can you imagine pulling your own hair, pulling your own feathers? And now it waits for fresh feathers to grow on its body. Then it looks for one more thing. It looks at its nails on its legs, and every nail that is bent inwards, because it now cannot clutch and cannot catch its prey. Every nail that is bent inwards, it starts to plucking it out. Now, that, if you want to know how painful that is like plucking your nail out. It goes through extreme pain. First it breaks its beak, then it pulls its feathers. Now it pulls its nail out of it, over the feet. It waits for the nail to grow. Then it has one more challenge, and that's the challenge of its sight. Because it's been flying so high in the sky and looking at the sun for 40, 45 years and getting its energy from the sun, it develops something called a cataract. And it's going blind. So what it does is, with its new feathers and new beak and new nails on its feet, it flies higher in the sky, and it goes so close to the sun as it possibly could. And it opens its eyes and lets the sun's rays come and kill the cataract. And then it gets fresh vision for another 40, 45 years. That's what an eagle does in a midlife crisis. I wonder if anybody here is going through a midlife crisis. I wonder if you have a very demanding life. You're scared, you're worried, you're anxious, you're contemplating a lot of things, and you're saying, oh my God, what am I going to do in my future? I don't know what's going to happen to my life. So many questions that you have, that you are getting into a midlife crisis. You know what you need to do? Get into isolation. Get into an isolation with God and hear his voice. Let God tell you what he has plans for you. He's got a plan which is beautiful. He's got a plan which is good. He's got a plan that is going to be a blessing to you. But you need to hear God tell you that. Many of us just take that verse from the Bible, 29:11, Jeremiah 29:11. Yeah, great. But has God spoken to you, or some man spoke over you? Let God speak. Hear his voice. We are hearing everybody's voice. We are hearing every televangelist. We are hearing everybody, including me this morning. But go hear God's voice. Because you got to hear God's voice. Because when you hear God's voice, you can hold on to it and say, God spoke to me. That gives me the ability to look into my future. There are a few things that you need to probably even pluck out. The eagle breaks its beak, pulls its feathers and its nails that are bent, and also cuts its cataracts of the eye. It's a painful process. So what are you planning to pull out? What's keeping you down? What's getting you to be not the best of who you are? What is it that's stopping you from being the best version of you? What do you need to pull out? When you get into isolation with God, God will start speaking to you. He said, drop that. He said, stop that. Stop that company of friends that you are spending so much time. He'll probably say, stop watching that television program, or stop watching Netflix. Stop watching all those movies that you're watching. Spend time with me. He'll tell you what to drop. He'll tell you what to pluck out. He'll give you a fresh vision for the next 40, 45 years. And my favorite character from the New Testament is Peter. I love this man. And in Mark chapter 14, verse 67, and then John chapter 20, you see how Peter actually goes back fishing. After walking with Jesus for 3.5 years, seeing his miracles and everything, he goes back fishing. Can you imagine? And the problem with that is because Peter was the leader of the pack, the others also followed him. But then in John chapter 21, Jesus comes to Peter, reassures him, calls him into the kingdom. And then you see a changed man in Peter in Acts chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Go ahead and read Peter's life in Acts chapter 1. In chapter 1, he's just one among the 12 disciples. In Acts chapter 2, he becomes the leader of the church. In Acts chapter 3, when he preaches, 3,000 people come to the feet of God. Just one preaching, one day sermon brought 3,000 people. In Acts chapter 4 and 5, there's some great miracles that happen. Even he does something greater than what Jesus did. Just walking, his shadow heals people. Can you imagine that? That's what God wants to do in your life, in my life. But we need to get into an isolation with God and hear his voice. And when we do that, he'll give you fresh vision, fresh life, another 40, 45 years. So let me close. Those are the 9 points that we saw today. Dauntless, vision, tenacious, active, nurturing, high flyer, grip, loyal, and vitality. I just hope it was not a drink from a fire hydrant and I didn't go too fast. I hope you had time to do self-introspection and reflection. Well, I think this is being recorded, and so you will get a copy of it. And when you get a copy of it, you can probably do it in your own speed as well. But Crystal, back to you, and thank you for the opportunity. And if there are questions, we can probably take a few before we close.
Thank you so much for those beautiful insights. It's really a lot of learning, a lot of food for thought. Yeah. When I shared about this topic to one of my friends, he had asked me this one question. So I think we will open up the question and answer through this.
Okay.
While others, if I can ask you to either put your comments and on the chat so that I can read it out, or you can also ask question whenever. So my first question is, eagle is a solitary bird.
Mm-hmm.
How could it be a leader without having a pack or leading somebody?
Yep. That's a great question. But I think what we need to do is, you can never be a great leader of people if you don't lead yourself. So what an eagle does is, it's an eagle is an isolated, lonely bird. It doesn't have a flock. It flies all by itself. But the lesson that you need to learn is, I can never be a leader if I don't lead myself well. The problem with today's world is there are too many people in corporates and too many people in churches who have been elevated to the position of leadership without them being leading first well. Right? And that's a problem. And God never will take somebody and make them a leader before actually, I was just, hearing Ravi Zach the other day, and I loved what I got. Let me see if I can actually get that. It's just fabulous. When God wants to drill a man and thrill a man and skill a man, when God wants to mold a man to play the noblest part, when he yearns with all his heart to create so great a bolder man that all the world should be amazed, watch his methods, watch his ways, how he ruthlessly perfects, how he royally elects, how he hammers him and hurts him, and with mighty blows converts him into trial shapes of clay which only God understands, while his tortured heart is crying and he lifts beseeching hands, how he bends but never breaks when his good he undertakes, how he uses what he chooses, and which every purpose fuses him, by every act induces him, try his splendor out, God knows what he's about. And so God will never use anybody if he hasn't been tried yet in the fire. And so that, I think, is the analogy that we can learn from the eagle. Yes, it's a lonely bird. It's a bird that flies by itself. And that and that's analogy perfectly fits the United States of America. You probably see a lot of leaders all by themselves. But yes, start with yourself. When you become a leader first, yourself, and you can lead yourself well, you can lead others well. And you and I cannot lead ourselves well without being led by the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Thank you. Some time ago, I just wanted to acknowledge the presence of both Jesus Christ and Satan in our session. We had two participants who named their ideas, one Jesus Christ and the other person is Satan. Okay. Alish has a question. So, Alish, would you like to ask?
Hi, my name is Alicia, sir. So I would like to ask one question. When you were mentioning about how a parent is leading a child, right?
Yeah.
In terms of like when you have a child, and it matters. It's not just how parenting. It's not just about providing. It's not just about giving everything the child needs. But then there is something much more than that. Is the time that you spend with the child, right?
Correct.
And there are a lot of family. This is local understanding in our families these days. Like, if you have a child that is born to you, like for me and my spouse, it is like, the child is born to the entire family. But then what I believe is the responsibility stays to the parent, because the child is born to the parent. So what happens here is most of the people, they say, they take it very grantly, and what they do is they give the child for taking care of the child to other family member whenever they want to go out or things like that, and it becomes very monotonous and becomes very normal for them to do that. What do you think in that kind of a situation? What kind of a leadership is being imposed, or probably what kind of a leadership is missing out in that parent? And what are the things that they should focus and they should cut down from doing?
Okay, so I would tend to think that when a child is born to the parents, yeah, the primary responsibility lies with the parents, right? But
course,
please don't take the weight onto yourself completely. Please, I loved my most lovely times that I had was with my grandparents. They led me, they taught me. I got love from my grandparents. Please don't put too much of weight on just the parents giving the love to the child. Expose them to the grandparents, expose them to friends, expose them to neighbors, but let the parent be that fulcrum, that line of thought, who will tell them what is right and what is wrong. Parents cannot absolve their responsibility, they can't outsource it to somebody else, but they can always make sure that the ecosystem is what the child gets exposed to. Sometimes the parent does not expose the child to the world outside, and they're making a child close to coming to failing in the society when the person gets exposed. And that is a big trouble that I see today. They are so protective of the child, they don't expose the child to anybody else except to what happens in the house. And when it comes for the child to live as an adult outside of the house, the child is not prepared. That's exactly what the eagle did not want the eaglets to actually do. You got to make life uncomfortable for the child at some point of time, and then when time comes, the child is able to handle difficult situations outside of their house. And so please, while the parent's responsibility relies with the parent, which is the primary responsibility, tap into every other relationship so that the child gets love and affection and care and wisdom and intellect from other sources as well, which is what I think.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right.
Yeah. Murlisa, do you have anything to ask?
Yeah, I had. Thank you very much, JKJ, for this wonderful presentation. In just short period of time, you went through all these 9 wonderful qualities of eagle. And I had the privilege of attending to a similar session of JKJ on 8th November 2018. I've written everything that he has shared in this notebook.
Yeah.
And one aspect which he was not able to cover, I don't know for what reason, he said about the spicing of our life, spice our life.
Yeah.
Wonderful thought. That is the aspect which is so very important. You know, he said SPICE, spiritual, physical, intellectual, the community, and most importantly, the emotional aspects of our life.
Yes.
I believe those have to be connected back to learn from the eagle, and our way forward will be greater, beneficial, especially to be a good parent. The question previous person asked question is that how can I be a good parent, right? Most of the time we try to be goody-goody with our children all the time, make them available, make known to them that life is not all that easy. Let them go around and look at the mother eaglet, father eagle allowing the little fat little eaglet to fall down, and then he goes down to pick the eagle. So I believe that there's a lot of learning in that aspect. Thank you very much, JK. I enjoyed being in this session.
Thank you, Anna, for being there. Really appreciate it.
God bless. The passion in which you shared, it goes deep inside our hearts. I believe when the notes comes in or somebody shares in thereafter, I believe every aspect of the eagle, quite a lot of things to learn and apply to ourselves. Midlife crisis, especially for me, I'm 62 now. I believe I dare not to do some exercises, but I'm going to do it. Yes. Sharp as the eagle. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Could you share eighth point, the active self-reflection slide?
Sure.
Guess somebody has missed it, so on their one. So there is another question from Ranjit Jacob. He's asking, don't leaders get tired as well? Is it possible to keep leaders their spirit all the time?
Say that again. Sorry, I was moving slides here. What is the first part? I think leaders getting tired.
Yeah, don't leaders get tired?
Yeah.
Is it possible for them to keep their spirits high all the time?
Yeah, so I think that's where I think Murli Anna's point will come. I didn't cover that today because I focused only on the eagle's qualities. In my previous presentation, I covered the spice angle as well. Let me cover that for you so that it'll answer Ranjit's question. Yes, leaders will get tired. And the more you're connected, the more you're emotionally connected with your people, the more the tire is, because you are connected with them, not just physical, not just at a corporate level, but also at a feeling level. And so leaders will need to take time out and isolate themselves. And that's why the isolation becomes very important. If you don't spend quality time with Jesus and spend time in talking to him every day and go to work, you will get hit. So you need to be that person who constantly waits on the Lord. We started with that, waiting on the Lord, renewing their strength like that of an eagle. If you don't wait on the Lord, you will get tired. All right, that's number one. Number two, for us not to get tired very fast is this whole aspect of spice. All of us, most of us here on the call may cook. I know the spelling and that's it. I don't cook. I have a great kitchen. I have a great house, but I don't know how to cook. The reason why I don't cook is because I know a lot of cooks who cook very well, and therefore I love to eat what they cook. And so, but if you really look at spice, why do you add spices when you cook? You add spices because you want the aroma, you want the taste increasing and getting better. And that's why one of my favorite foods is the Thai food. The Thai food, they operate under something called 13 varieties of spices. And that's why it is one of the finest foods to eat. India is not far behind, but India, I think, is close to 9 or 8 spices that we use. But Thailand uses 13 spices. And that's why I love the Thai food. But why do we put the spice? Spice S. You got to spice yourself spiritually. That's the foundation. And I told you already about that. Spending quality time in the presence of God. Spice. P is the physical aspect of things. You know, before the lockdown, I used to play tennis every other day. I'm missing my tennis badly. If there's one thing I want to start, not the buses, not the trains, not the flights, it's my tennis. I want to go and play my tennis again. Why? Because if you don't have a physical body which is strong and mentally tough, what's the point in having everything else? You got to spend quality time improving your physical aspects of things. So SP, so P is physical. I is intellectual. What are you reading? What are the books that you're reading? What are the stuff that you're watching? What are the books that you're immersing yourself into? One of the books that I just reading right now, and I've just finished it. It's a book that I finished in a long time. I've taken a lot of books to finish. This is the only one that I finished cover to cover in so many years. Is a book written by Mark Batterson, and the title of the book is Grave Robber. Talks about Jesus being the greatest grave robber in history. And what a phenomenal writer. And I love that book cover to cover, and it's intellectually brilliant. So what is going on into your mind at an intellectual level? Spice that, okay? SPIC is on a community level. How are you giving back to society? How are you giving back to the community? Are you just getting all this for you, your family, your people within your house? Or are you able to give it back to society? How are you helping your society in the pandemic? How are you helping people who are going through a difficult period of time right now when they don't have food to eat, clothes to wear? What are you doing? How are you giving back to society, community? And the last is, how are you connecting and spicing at an emotional level? Unfortunately, in today's world, we are living in a society where I have to call or text somebody saying, are you free, before you call. Have you seen that change? When I was growing up, I didn't have to call my friend. I would just walk into his house. I would ask his mom, where's the dosha? I'm hungry. Today, you try doing that, they'll say, who are you? All right. You got to have appointments before going into even to a friend's house. We've made relationships so formal. So we got to connect at an emotional level. Call somebody that you've never called before. Keep in touch with somebody that you've never kept in touch before. Constantly ask God, saying, God, give me somebody that I need to pray for. So when you do all of this, when you spice your life around spiritual, physical, intellectual, community, and emotional levels, then your tiredness will not be tiredness. It will be a good tiredness, and that's okay. The other tiredness will get you to hit your bed. The other tiredness will get you depressed. The other tiredness will get you not excited to go to work. But when you spice your life in these 5 aspects, life will suddenly take a different meaning altogether.
Awesome.
Praise the Lord.
Yes.
Sure. Could you also share the slide of high flyer?
High flyer.
I think it's. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions from anybody?
One aspect, Chrysolite, can I chip in? JKJ mentioned about this community level, right? So spicing up your life. One aspect, after putting in about 40 odd years of service in the bank, I believe giving back to community and society before we are called home is a very, very important aspect. I believe we can do it even at this age. We kept on receiving and compensating right from the time we were a child, going to college and going to a bank, and kept on receiving and receiving and receiving. Those compensations will not end, right? I believe we need to be a contributor. When are we going to give it away? So I believe it's time for each of us to ponder today, to be community level, to be givers of whatever contribution, whatever giftings and talents that we have, before we are called home. Otherwise, he's going to ask you, what did you do with the gifts that I gave you? Did you give it to somebody else? Yes. Did you give it to the community? And that will be too late a time to hang our face in shame, and that's going to be a little difficult. I cannot tell him, let me go back to the world and live and come. I believe that's going to be a huge challenge. You discover at the fag end of life that you never lived. That is the aspect which JKJ was saying about community level connection. Thank you very much. And those of you who are already part of some NGOs and connected, think all the time to be vibrant enough how we can help the community through an NGO that we are connected with. I'm connected with an NGO here called Seal Ashram. A lot of good work they're doing. I mean, they're going out of the way to be that good Samaritan. And one more time, maybe sometime else, I will tell you about how good these people are doing, right? So great. The spicing of life is a great example to conclude this session, JKJ. Very good.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you.
Okay.
Could you also share the slide on tenacious,
About?
the tenacious slide?
Sure. There's one question here.
Yeah.
Can everyone become a leader, or is there any special call? So there's this constant question, no, are leaders born or are they made? And I love the response of Dr. John Maxwell when he was asked this question, are leaders born or are they made? And his response was, I'm yet to meet an unborn leader. So all, all leaders are born first and then either made into one or, I think all of us have a calling of leadership in some aspect or the other. Because John Maxwell says this, and you could probably read one of his books, The 360-Degree Leader, where he says you can lead from anywhere in the organization. You don't need to be a leadership title given to you for you to lead. Leadership, he makes leadership just into one word, and that word is influence. If you and I are influencing anybody at any point of time, you are leading. All right. So are leaders born? Of course they are born. Are leaders made? Yes, they are made. Some are made because of the situation and environment. Some have these traits as they are born and they grow with it. So either way, you are a leader. Either you are born a leader or you are made a leader. And so examples could be, Peter. Peter, I think, was born leader. He had those traits, and Jesus knew that he is a born leader. Somebody else may not have been a born leader, but was made a leader because they trusted the Lord and was made a leader. So yes, all of us have a chance to be a leader, either born or made. You wanted Chrysolite, you wanted which screen? Tenacious, is it?
Yeah, tenacious. Somebody wants to know the book that you were currently reading that you mentioned.
Grave Robber, Mark
Grave.
Patterson. Mark Patterson, the book is Grave Robber. It is brilliant. I like it. It's not just stuff from the Bible, but he's done so much of research and he's brought in some intellectual topics in there. It's just fabulous.
Is there a soft copy of that book, JKJ?
No, I don't think soft copies of it. It's just a new book, so I doubt whether soft is there. Thank you, Santosh.
Yeah, for those of you who want the recording, please input your email ID in the chat box if you're not with one of us, and then we will send across. So do we have any further questions?
I doubt.
Okay. I think you have cleared it yourself, all the questions. So I think. So should we, can we close this? May I request Uncle Murli to close in prayer?
Oh, yeah. Oh, shall we commit us one more time into this? Father, we thank you for this wonderful time of togetherness as a family. We are able to look into the wonderful aspects of the eagle leadership, oh God. Father, although this is not our national bird, and it's the national bird of USA, there's so much to learn from it, oh Father. And help us to be fearless and in every situation that happens. More than all of these, Lord, help us to be having the self-reflection, Lord, the vision that we have. Even most of us, we don't have a vision even at 60 plus, oh God. Give us a vision, oh Father. What is in store for us, oh God? Would you speak to us, Lord? Help us to be tenacious, never to give up, no matter what happens, oh God. Even in difficult situations and circumstances, oh God, help us never to give up, oh Father. And Lord, especially for nurturing, our parents could or could not nurture us, Lord. But then it was time for us to nurture our own children. Many times we lost that opportunity to nurture our children, oh God. It's never too late, oh God. Even the youngsters, help us to focus on that, Lord. And from the aspect of high flyer, oh God, most of the time it has got the ability to fall down and even loom larger, oh God, in the sky. The same way, oh God, help us to apply all of these principles. The principle of grip, oh God, vice like grip, and active, oh God, that does not feed on dead things, oh God. Help us never to look into things of the past where unforgiveness and hurt and bitterness, oh God,